Chapter 5. Why do we drink coffee? As kids, we hate it. It's disgusting. But somewhere along the way, we learn to accept the bitter flavor, even crave it. When does that happen exactly? I think it happens right around the time we realize that maybe nothing exceptional will ever come our way. That maybe we should just forget about Shirley Temples and pineapple punch and limeade, throw away the festive paper umbrellas and maraschino cherries, and settle for a mug of brown liquid. On that winter afternoon, condensation coated the picture windows at Anna's old-world Scandinavian coffeehouse. A wave of muggy air hit me as I stepped inside. "There you are," Grandma Anna called. She stood behind the counter holding an armful of wet towels. "I was worried about you. I almost called Officer Larson." "Sorry." "Hello, Katrina." Four men waved from the corner of the table. Ingvar, Odin, Lars, and Ralph. Burly, wind-worn men who had captained fish boats in the years when King Crab had ruled the Bering Sea. Ralph was the only Native American in the group, and though an occasional argument arose about native fishing rights, they were a solid bunch of friends. Retired, they met every other day to play an ancient Viking board game called Hanafel, which means King's Table. My mother called these men the boys. "Why is it so warm in here?" I asked. "Dishwasher went kaput," Ingvar explained, an unlit pipe hanging from the corner of his mouth. "Spewed steam like a farting dragon." "Made a real mess," Odin said, moving one of the white pieces across the board. "Hey, Anna, where's those sandwiches?" I followed my grandmother to the back room where she dumped the towels into a basket. Her loafers squelched, soggy with sudsy water. "You didn't call Officer Larson about the dishwasher, did you?" I asked. She smoothed her short gray hair. "Officer Larson doesn't understand appliances. Ralph looked it over. He said it blew a pump and I'll have to order a new one. There's 2 dead appliances this month. I don't know how I'm going to pay for them." She sighed, then gave me a hug as she always did when I came in after school, squishing me with her big soft stomach. "Are we still broke?" "Now, don't you worry about that," Grandma Anna shook a finger at me. "That's my concern, not yours." "Anna!" Odin cried. "You want a man to starve to death?" "You're too fat to starve to death," she yelled back. She grabbed the mop from the corner. "Could you make the boys some sardine sandwiches? There's still a puddle to clean." Sardine sandwiches. Since we catered to the Scandinavian crowd and to tourists who wanted a taste of the old world, we served open-faced sandwiches on dense dark breads, layered with things like red onions, pickled herring, and tomatoes. And sardines. Those little fish are supposed to be good for you, and they don't taste too bad, once you get used to the fact that you're also eating skin and bones. I set my backpack on a shelf and pulled an apron over my head. After washing my hands, I grabbed a loaf of pumpernickel and joined Irmgard at the counter. She had worked at Anna's for as long as I could remember, always there when we opened, always there when we closed. Other than myself, Irmgard was the coffeehouse's only employee. We knew that she lived alone in an apartment complex at the edge of town. We knew that she could make great soup, and we knew that she was heart-stoppingly beautiful, even though she never wore makeup, only wore plain dark clothes and kept her hair cut super short. Her beauty was the reason I suspected the boys spent so much time at Anna's coffeehouse. But no one knew where she had lived before, coming to Nordby. No one knew her age, we guessed about 40, and no one knew why she had taken a vow of silence. Irmgard dropped a block of butter into a tall soup pot, then stirred gracefully while I built the sandwiches. She dumped 2 handfuls of chopped onions into the pot. They sizzled and filled the coffeehouse with their aroma. I didn't mind her silence. It never felt awkward, the way it can with other people. It seeped into me, in a hypnotic way. Odin bellowed again. I stacked the sandwiches onto a tray and hurried to the corner table. Big, calloused hands grabbed the salty treats. "Thanks," the boys said. I gathered their mugs and filled them at the percolator. "Would you like anything else?" I asked a woman whose little boy was running poop on the foggy window. Other than the boys, they were the only customers, typical for a December afternoon. Tourist season didn't start until May, when pleasure boats began to chug into the marina. "We're finished," the mother replied. She paid her bill, then gathered her coat and purse. Her kid had picked out all the onions from his soup and piled them on the table. "So, Katrina, what's new in school?" Ralph asked. "Not much." I wiped the table's oilcloth as the mother and son left. "Hey, did you guys know that Mr. Darling is sponsoring the Solstice Festival?" "Well, he'd better not come in here and ask for a donation," Grandma Anna said, sticking her head out the pantry curtains. "I've already given him most of my customers. I'm not about to help him decorate his shop." Ingvar chuckled, sliding his pipe across his mouth. "The man's shop is a blight," Odin said, claiming one of Lars' game pieces. "All those kids hanging out there all the time, crowding the sidewalk. You can barely get past the place. Thank God no kids hang out here." Odin's comment drifted back towards the pantry, and I waited for my grandmother's reaction. Financial worries came in second to her constant worries about my social life. What's wrong with having only two friends? At least I didn't have to buy their friendship with mocha frappe coupons. Katrina, my grandmother, emerged from the pantry. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for the onslaught. Why don't you ask a nice boy to go to the Solstice Festival with you? She wiped her hands on her apron. You're such a pretty girl. I know there's lots of nice boys who would love to go. You just pick the best one and ask him. Grandmothers can tell you that you're pretty, and they will. They can tell you that you're talented and special and the best darn thing that ever walked on 2 feet, that any boy would be lucky to breathe the same air that you breathe. But those comments don't count. Grandmothers have to say those things. Here's what a grandmother probably wouldn't tell you. That it's great to be blonde if you're perky and outgoing, but if you tend to be untalented and shy, it doesn't help much. That 16-year-old boys don't like to date girls who tower over them, and that those same boys steer clear of girls who hang out with one particular guy, even if he's just your best friend, because they figure that something else is going on. Then throw in a bunch of rumors about a guy in a skirt and a good deed, and you might as well slit your wrists. Forget about working, Katrina. We can manage one night without you. This year you go out and enjoy the festival. I'll think about it. I wasn't going to think about it. Who would I ask? The only boy I ever did anything with was Vincent. 5 o'clock came, closing time, at Anna's Old World Scandinavian Coffeehouse. The boys rolled up their game mat, put on their coats and hats, and bid good night to Grandma Anna and me. Then, with especially tender voices, they bid good night to Irmgard. She smiled shyly, but didn't look up from her soup pot. The boys headed off to the pub for a snort, which they called a shot of whiskey. Just as I was about to flip the open sign, Mr. Darling sauntered in. Like his daughter, he kept his hair in a ponytail, only his didn't bounce. It hung kind of limp and thin. He snickered at the word poop still etched on the front window. New item on your menu? He asked. What do you want? My grandmother asked between clenched teeth. He smoothed his navy sweater with its Java Heaven Cloud logo and surveyed the empty room. I'd be happy to send a few of my customers over if you need the business, Anna. What's a neighbor for? I hated the way he called my grandmother by her first name, as if they were friends. We're closed, I told him. That's why we don't have any customers. I see. Just offering my help. My grandmother rose to her full 5 feet 3 inches. I've been in the business for over 40 years, she said, and I've managed quite nicely without your help. Over 40 years? He acted as if he didn't know that fact, as if he hadn't bothered to read the sign above the door, Anna's Old World Scandinavian Coffeehouse, bringing the old country to Nordby for over 40 years. He pointed a finger at me. Say, don't you go to the school with my daughter? I'd gone to school with Heidi since the first grade. We'd played at the same piano recitals and joined the same Girl Scout troops, had read poetry in the same school pageants, but Mr. Darling never seemed to remember me. Which brings me to another thing my grandmother won't tell you. You just aren't memorable, sweetheart. What's your name again? Katrina. He looked doubtful. Well, I'll try to remember that. Then he sat at one of our stools and folded his hands on the counter. 40 years is a long time to run a business, Anna, and every business has its lifespan. I bet you're tired of this place. My grandmother closed the black curtains, hiding the mess of wet towels. Why would I be tired of this place? Then she busied herself with the percolator, emptying the grounds into a bucket we kept under the sink, while I cleaned the tables and Irmgard worked on her soup. A group effort at snubbing. Once a month, Mr. Darling came to rub our noses in the fact that his coffee house, which had only been in business for 2 years, overflowed with customers. The laptop crowd liked the hip music, the at-home moms liked the whipped iced coffee drinks that were basically milkshakes, and everyone on the planet liked his organic fair trade coffee. Our coffee wasn't organic, nor did it come in a fancy label that said it'd been picked by a native cooperative, that bags were recyclable, and 10% of the profits went back to the coffee farmer. No siree. Our coffee came in a big plastic bag from Bolt's Supply Company. The label just said, coffee. Mr. Darling cleared his throat. Anna, I've made a decision that affects both of us. I'm too busy to talk right now, she snapped, dumping the remaining coffee down the sink. Unless you're here to buy something, I'd like you to leave. Irmgard grabbed some potatoes from the pantry and began chopping. I wish that Mr. Darling would leave. I always felt self-conscious when he visited, well aware of our total lack of trendiness. Organic coffee is a great thing. We should have served it, too, but Grandma Anna said nothing was wrong with regular coffee, plus she didn't want the additional expense. As a matter of fact, I would like to buy something. Mr. Darling pivoted on the stool. You see that wall? He pointed to the wall that separated our two businesses. A portrait of the King and Queen of Norway hung there. They had once visited Nordby. I've decided to tear down that wall so I can expand my business." Irmgard gasped. A few potatoes rolled off the counter. "What?" I cried. Mr. Darling smiled. "I'll need you to vacate as soon as possible."